Hi all, and welcome to this new channel. I'm Beppe, and that's my little piece of work on YouTube. As a first video, I'd like to share with you a project I did time ago. It's a simple data analysis project made in Python, and it's taken from an article I wrote on Medium. So for those interested, I'll drop the links to both my Medium and GitHub page for the source code in the section down below this video. Now, how about this project and how it all started? It was just over 1 year ago I heard about ChatGPT for the first time. All at once, technical items related to AI, machine learning, neural networks, and genetic algorithms became very popular. As its media coverage skyrocketed, I thought it would be a good idea exploiting a couple of Python libraries I was studying at the time: Spacey and Network X. Project's mission was to track the ChatGPT phenom on media and make some cool visualizations of this word and its interactions with other keywords. Now, here in shorts, all the main steps for this project. Step number 1. I will register on the Guardian website to receive the API key in my email. Moreover, I'll show you how to hide this key in your operating system in order to call it later on your Python code. In the second step, once we get the key, we will retrieve data by using request library, and then we will create a small data frame of articles stored in the Guardian archive. In this step, well, nothing fancy here, just a pure and simple preliminary data manipulation. A basic plot will be displayed too. Now in Spacey we will break the input text down, then we will proceed to create new words, rules and patterns. Finally, we will proceed to create words clusters. And for the last part, we're gonna see how different classes of words and topics are connected to each other in a new style display. In this project, I need to access data stored in the Guardian article database. So, I will use Python to make my request to the internet. Now, my Python language needs to be converted in a way that the Guardian server can understand it. Here comes the API's role. It will act like a middle layer, translating my request to the web server. Now, it can process my request by collecting all data on its database of articles. Finally, it sends them back to me as a response, and I can finally read this info on my Python code. Last thing, my request, in order to be authorized, needs an API key. So, let's see how to do that. Alright, the page you're watching now is where you get your key. It's a mandatory step, as I told you before, and you cannot skip it. The URL, or the link on the page you're watching now, will be provided in the section below this video. Now, click on Register Developer Key and fill in the form you're watching now. Email address is the only information you will really need to provide them, because it's where you will receive your key. Once you're done, click on Register and wait for the key. At this point you're done. You may use your key for your project, but maybe you may be interested in not sharing your key with other users. So for these reasons, I kindly suggest you to follow the next part where I'm going to show you how to store it in your operating system. Otherwise, if it's not a concern at all for you, please skip this part and go straight to part 2. On the desktop page, click Start. Then choose System. Now on your right, click on Advanced System Settings. Next box, click on Environment Variables. Now click on New and just insert 2 inputs. The first one is the variable name. Choose whatever you want, but pay attention, this name will be the one you use on the code in the future. Second is a variable value. Just paste your key number copied before from your email. Now congratulations, now you're ready to follow the project. Okay, finally on Visual Studio Code for the coding part. I suggest to work on a IPYNB file instead of a .py, because some of the interactive plots we're gonna see later on are just made for this kind of files, and they can be visualized like in Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Lab. It's the same thing. So now, let's start. I already imported the main libraries, and pay attention to OS. This is the library that we're gonna use for retrieve our API key of the previous steps. Now, this is the URL, and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. Sorry, that's the page, and let's reset. Okay, this is the page where I can retrieve data without using any Python file or code. But let me show you this URL, because the one we're gonna pay attention now. I need to find any reference to ChatGPT. ChatGPT. Okay. And now the URL has changed. If I click on it, I see that Q equals ChatGPT, which is the content of our search. And what you're looking now is the JSON structure of our file. So when we retrieve data by using requests, we get back a response. A response will be an object containing this information, and that's a JSON format information. As you can see, they are a dictionary format containing keys and values, as you're probably used to in Python. Just to make it short, results will be all the information we need. So this list of elements from ID of each article to pillar name. We're not going to use each column, but this is the structure we need to inform. So results inside response. Now come back to the file, to the code. Now that I got the URL, I need to get my information. Before starting, I need two things. First of all, it's the variable for my API key. So I say my API equal os.environ.get and the name of the variable I stored in my system before, which is API guardian. If I now try to retrieve my data, I will use the famous request library. For those who have no experience with this library, request is a basic library to retrieve data online. Sometimes it's not enough, but for the project of today's project, it's more than okay. So first of all, I get to insert my URL and some parameters. And I call them my parent. Okay, and these are the parameters I'm going to insert. API key, which is the name of my API key stored. Q is the content I'm searching, so ChatGPT. Format JSON is important, but it's not mandatory. I prefer writing because sometimes we are not lucky in our response. So this is just a way to force a good result for us. Page, I'm just working to retrieve one page with at most 100 results. There are many codes and scripts that I tested successfully for force this limit, which actually limits it 200 if I'm not wrong. Anyway, for now we're just working on a very, very small data frame. Now, I got my request, and what happens if I run this code now? Well, first of all, let's give a name. The name is response is equal, and now response. Let's see what happens. I got response 200. That's not what we were looking for, because this is an HTTP message. which say you successfully retrieve your data and you got everything you request. Unfortunately, you cannot check or inspect, analyze that. In short, we cannot know what we just retrieved. So for doing that, we need to transform all the objects of our response into a JSON format structure. And that's what we got here. And yeah, exactly what we watched before. So now we got all information and we finally can see what we're interested in and what we don't care. Actually, we just interested in results, which is the list of all these elements. That's all. So I can finally go on and say response. I already test all the structure, so for this reason, trust me, this is what we need. Results. Okay, that's what I need now. Unfortunately, as I say, it's not the format we need to work. So for this reason, I transform this JSON structure into a flat table. Don't worry if you don't understand now. I'm gonna show you what I mean. And let's go, yes, res dictionary. Okay, and now what we got here is this one. Okay, it looks like a pandas table. Just to be sure, if I say type res dict, yeah, it's a panda core data frame, so I can even start working on this. For experience, I suggest you to do this, to force, because sometimes you got a res dict is not a pandas core data frame. I've already had this experience, so let's force into a pandas data frame res dict, and let's call df. Okay, so df is this one, exactly the same, but now we're sure it's a pandas data frame, and we can, for instance, just to show you, fine. In fact, now we can do whatever we want. Perfect. Let's end up part 1. I want to count the number of articles by day that the Guardian website published. However, for doing this and having saw a first glance of the ChatGPT trend on these media, I need to convert some data because I found out that the column web publication date didn't work properly. It wasn't in the right format. It was a string instead of a datetime. So I made 2 attempts. The first one that I suggest you to do every time is convert the types, which means pandas will try to make an educated guess for each column and each date for each column of this data frame and fit them in the best typology. What I'm talking about, ID, I was supposed to be a string, so I'm expecting a string value, but for web publication date, I was expecting a date time. Unfortunately, it was a string. So as it didn't work with this first try, I made the usual one on web publication date only. And so I use pandas to date time. Once I done, it worked, and so I could just fit it in the proper way by using date time that I call DT and the method date. Okay, now I'm ready and I can do it. First of all, I suggest you to work on serious data frame. That's just a dumb sample. Few data, so will not be very meaningful. But anyway, it's good for the purpose of this project. Now I got my data frame properly set, I need to sort values by publication date in a way that the last data, the most updated one, will be the first one to appear. So ascending false in place true. And once I'm done, I finally can group by date web publication date, and select the column ID. Why I did that? Because I want to count the number of articles by day, but it must be, and I want to be sure there will be one article different by day, which means in case there was a copy of the same article, it will not be counted. So I did this, selected ID, number of unique element, and then I reset the index in order to have a new index for my plot, which is called articles for days. Once I done, okay, set index, I select articles for days, and I selected, well, let's say last 16th element, so the last 2 months, and I plotted it with a bar plot because we have some discrete values and I want to count them. Okay, let's run it, and that's the result. Well, disappointing. At most 2 articles by day concerning ChatGPT, but as I told you before, that's not a huge data frame. So move on and fast forward to the second part of the project. Okay guys, I gotta confess that I thought I could put up one video only for the whole project, but I was a bit too optimistic, and in the end I was wrong. That means that I have to stop here for the moment. However, don't be worried, because I'm coming back soon with the second part, where we focus on Spacy and Network X, so stay tuned. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed what's shown so far, and if you like it, please share your ideas and consider to subscribe to the channel. If not now, maybe in the future. So it's all for now. Bye bye data friends!